One of the main cast of upcoming Star Trek movie, Section 31, is already laying the groundwork to distance himself from its impending hate flood. Section 31, a movie that was once intended to be a TV show but was retooled into a one-shot movie instead, probably because they realized it would be even more tedious as a whole-ass long series and roundly rejected by the core fandom of Trek for even longer than a one-shot movie would be. And it's not just me with the attitude of expectation that this movie will be a garbage fire who misses the target audience of Star Trek fans so widely it will be embarrassing for everyone involved. Even the people in it think it'll be a shit Star Trek show. Robert Kaczynski, the actor playing Zeph, who is some kind of douche bro looking dingleberry, looking like he's cosplaying some mech suit wearing Space Commando video game character from back when everyone was trying to copycat the Gears of War series. You know, the most Star Trek thing you've ever seen. But in pre-release interviews, Kaczynski has said, with both more and somehow also less self-awareness than you may expect from an actor who presumably wants to keep getting work, "I'm terrified of how it's going to be received because it's not the Trek people want," said the person in a Star Trek movie. "The Trek that people want is just 1,000 more episodes of TNG. First of all, yes, you're right. This shitty-looking action movie with a cast of miscreants and literal war criminals being presented as some kind of anti-hero super team we're supposed to cheer for, undoubtedly drowning in achingly shitty action movie one-liners delivered through smirks, and being neck-deep in ludicrous CGI effects, it is absolutely not the Trek actual Star Trek fans want, by and large, as a blanket statement. I know, maybe you're in the comments already, I'm a Star Trek fan and I want... Shh, I've got a point to make here. Second of all, no, you catastrophically out-of-touch shit-licker. Star Trek fans do not want 1,000 more episodes of TNG. We know this because they tried to nostalgia bait us with TNG stuff when they kept trying to course-correct Picard each season that plopped out of them, and while it wasn't even close to as mind-shearingly crappy at being Star Trek as Discovery was at being Star Trek, it was still largely panned by fans because of its pandering member-berries crap. Clearly demonstrating that no, what we want is not just give us more TNG. Which, on the note of Discovery, by the way, Section 31 is a Discovery spin-off property, if you didn't know because you couldn't suffer through the whole run of that show like I did, so you don't know who Georgiou is. We'll talk about her in a minute. So, already fruit of a tree that a lot of Trekkies just didn't want in their garden. But Kaczynski continues. Everyone's always furious that they're not getting more TNG, whilst at the same time when TNG came out, everybody hated it. That's not true. That's not true. If that were true, TNG wouldn't have gotten 7 seasons and 4 cinema-released movies. We liked TNG. Oh, and the thing you're doing is painting Trekkers as always furious that we're not getting more TNG. No, we're frustrated when people don't understand why we like Trek, even though there is decades of material out there of Trekkies talking about Trek and talking about why they like Trek in the first place. And some people don't seem to get it or don't care enough to look. They're always furious they're not getting more TNG. That's a lie. That is a fucking lie. I've already demonstrated that. Picard showed you that in recent years. That's not what we want. But he keeps going in his infuriating ignorance. So, this is going to come along, Section 31, and it's not going to feel like any Trek that they've ever seen, he added. Yeah, like, DS9 was like no other Trek we've ever had, and hey, why don't you survey a bunch of Trekkies and find out how far up DS9 ranks among our favourites, either as a series as a whole, or a favourite episode, or episodes, or even most enjoyed characters. I'm betting DS9 rates very heavily at the top of a lot of people's lists. And that was a very different Star Trek show, but it was still Star Trek. There was a Trekkiness about it, and I'll get to that too. So people out there in ignorance just do, oh, Star Trek fans only want more TNG churned out. No, that's demonstrably not true. What we want as Star Trek fans is more shows that understand the point of Star Trek. We understand and have already experienced Star Trek as a medium for a lot of different kinds of storytelling. We don't fear a new angle to it. A new angle got us DS9, which is friggin' beloved. Star Trek stood apart from the average sci-fi right from the very start. It did things differently. The original series established that. TNG built upon it and built frameworks and expectations on who and what and why and how the Federation and Starfleet want to be, what humanity on its very best day hopes to be. DS9 started to deconstruct it, to really examine the context of what it all means in a wider, grottier world with an eye to moral grey tones and imperfect solutions. I can live with it. And Voyager, by the way, do you recognize this set? And Voyager took a look at how it and its people hold up, under their own standards, their own self-described morality, when you remove the larger support systems that help you do that. What is humanity? What is Starfleet without all of that? Each of these shows was a distinctly different kind of Star Trek. Fans didn't want simply 1,000 more episodes of whichever one their favourite one is. We want stories told in the universe we know, under its own rules and lights and vibe, if you like. We want a show to sit in that optimistic framework where humanity is a better version of itself, where hope and dignity and respect outweigh selfishness and greed and aggression and ambition, where we build and respect instead of conquer and claim. The world of Star Trek is not perfect. That's the point of it too. The Federation is not some kind of flawless utopia, as some people try and paint it in discussions about socialism or something. And it isn't some sort of idealized socialism. There's grime and dirt and corruption and discrimination and all kinds of terrible people. But at the core of it, what we like about how it's presented, how it's treated, how stories are approached in Star Trek, unlike so much other sci-fi, so often drenched in dystopian frameworks and oppressive, grotty cynicism, Trek is optimistic above all else. It's not about the good guys defeating the bad guys, or the bad guys' evil plans to conquer the galaxy. It's about nurturing the best within each of us individually, and understanding that the corrosion of indulging our worst impulses is just not the best way to go. Whatever form the story takes in real Star Trek, the best Trek stories, it's about how we can and should keep trying to better ourselves, to do better, to be the best and kindest version of ourselves we can. Hold ourselves accountable to our own standards and dignity. The first duty of a Starfleet officer is to the truth. It's not about blind optimism that everything's going to be awesome someday. It's not inherent nobility of a culture removed from its worst impulses. It doesn't ignore or deny the bad crap either in the world or in us. But it doesn't indulge in it and splash around in it for the spectacle of it all. You know what doesn't vibe with that, with what Trek should be? And know why Star Trek fans are primed and expecting to hate Section 31 before they even see it. Because it does things like center characters like Emperor Philippa Georgiou as the hero. Georgiou, played by Michelle Yeoh, who is an actor I friggin' love, by the way, just so we're clear about that. I think she's brilliant and I want her to be in everything. And her performance of Georgiou in Discovery was one of the few consistently pleasant things in that show. Because Georgiou is a smarmy, mustache-twirling, duplicitous, conniving villain, and that's fun to watch. Especially when played by a capable actor with the chops to make it feel sincere and not cartoonish. In the context of the show, this version of Philippa Georgiou is a Terran. Terran being the species name for Earth humans in the alternate universe she originally came from, the Mirror Universe, something I don't have to explain to any Trek fans out there, I'm sure. The universe is very literally intended narratively to be the exact opposite of Trek. And specifically, this Georgiou was Emperor of the Terran Empire in the 23rd century. Her Most Imperial Majesty, Mother of the Fatherland, Overlord of Vulcan, Dominus of Kronos, Regina Andor, Philippa Giorgio Augustus, Imperator Centaurus. I think I said that right. Actually, I think I got the Latin bit wrong at the end. Doesn't matter. The short version of her bio is she was an uncompromising despot, responsible for rendering entire planets uninhabitable. Like literally, the Klingon homeworld, she nuked it. Can't live there anymore. Poisoned. And in doing so, murdered most of the Klingons, enslaving whole other races, subjugating other races, and some races of people she just kept as livestock for food. She ate people. She is a mass murderer on a scale only sci-fi can indulge upon. And in this movie, she joins Section 31. Section 31 is a secret, off-the-books, and extremely morally questionable division of Starfleet, one of the narrative tools that is used in some other shows to examine a murky underside to an apparent utopia. Section 31 claimed to be protecting the United Federation of Planets, but from, threats they can't ordinarily deal with because of their morality. But, by nature of that, are portrayed often as doing so through means that directly violate everything the damn Federation stands for in the first place. So they're not really protecting the Federation at all. They're basically a kind of secret police, but worse, because they operate without oversight, without accountability. They are a poison in the very arteries of the Federation. So, one of the most despicable and violent and murderous and interstellar multi-genocidal characters we've ever met in Star Trek joins up with the most antithetical aspect of the Federation, with a band of no doubt other criminals of various types. You'll have the bruiser, you'll have the one that's good at security stuff, you'll have the one that's good at it'll be that kind of cliche bullshit without a doubt. And all of this because someone thinks an action movie with a bunch of grim, dark, edgelord anti-heroes doing naughty, dark things in secret, but for the service of some supposed greater good, will appeal to people who don't even watch Star Trek. Because that's what this movie is for. It's for others. The idea of a Section 31 show has been bouncing around since the end of the first season of Star Trek Discovery, pushed heavily, apparently, by Michelle Yeoh herself. And I'm sure Giorgio is a very fun character for an actor to play, but the ego it takes to drive for a whole show, or in this case movie now, about her own character, a character who stands as the exact extreme antithesis of everything Trek is about, and that was the point of that character. And again, the point of the Terran Empire and the Mirror Universe being exactly that. Not just her character, but everything her character comes from. The direct and extreme opposite of the Federation. Put someone like that in a show to play against and go, well, this is why it's not good to be that. And give them their comeuppance. Don't make them the star, the hero. Well, as much charisma as Michelle Yeoh has on and off camera, and again, I love her. My opinion of her has dropped because of this. I don't think she gets it. Because this, pushing for this show, this movie, starring Giorgio, murderer of gajillions, this self-service above the needs of the many, as it were, and deliberately festering in everything un-Trek as a pessimistic tool to pander to an audience of edgy, gritty, dark action movie dumbassery that Trek is best served by staying away from. If anything, when you look at the real world around you right now, the stuff going on, what we need in our media, and from Trek, is to be what Trek is best for. An aspirational, optimistic, hopeful Trek. Not to scrape the gutter for grim, dark anti-heroes who are self-serving war criminals on a literal galactic scale. This is an extremely cynical ploy to grow the audience, but impossibly myopically at the expense of the existing one. And it's gross how stupid this is. This concept didn't work on Enterprise, when they had a whole episode inexplicably set in the Mirror Universe, utterly divorced from the actual show. There was no, back and forth transferal so you could examine, it was just a random episode in the middle of a season that was just in the Mirror Universe for some reason. So all the actors could ham up their best mustache twirling, and all we got from it was one of the most cringy episodes of a show already struggling to maintain its audience because the showrunners wouldn't trust the bloody writers. And it won't work here. That is why Trek fans, whose media literacy I feel safe in wagering on average is quite a bit higher than some other fandoms, are pissy about this film and will react in frustration and perceived furiousness, which is a really, really reductive way to describe what we're trying to communicate here. And why we're primed to go into this so cynically, expecting to hate it and looking for ways to talk about how it is shit. I speak for myself purely here when I say, if we were going to have something starring Georgiou, I want her to get her goddamn comeuppance. I want her to rot for her crimes. Not get some sort of vanity project from Michelle Yeoh so her character can get some sort of anti-hero redemption arc where, oh no, she's got a conscience now and she feels bad about the billions and billions and billions and billions of lives she exterminated with a cold heart when she was at the helm of her self-styled oppressive xenophobic empire she personally ruled. But it's okay now because she feels bad about it and she's the special chosen one to stop the MacGuffin Big Bad who no doubt threatens the entire universe, just like every stupid fucking seasonal arc of Discovery that spawned this despicable character. None of that is Trek! Most recent Trek we have had hit our screens, which just ended a 5-season run, Star Trek Lower Decks, was also a Trek unlike we have ever seen before. It was a self-aware semi-parody of Trek. A lot of fans were wary of Rick and Morty except Star Trek, expecting it to mock and deride something we loved, and to be so unserious as to be insulting to Trek itself. But that's not what it was. It fully served everything we loved about Trek. Now, not everyone loved all the inside references, the member berries of it all, and the sometimes distracting callbacks and self-aware dialogue about other Trek shows and characters and episodes. Narratively, I admit that can be distracting. But the show is undeniably, indisputably 100% Trek. At its heart, it is Trek. Its message is Trek. Its characters were Starfleet. Kindness, self-improvement, generosity, loyalty, and hope stood at the center of everything, despite all the jokes and potshots they took. And frankly, at least a few episodes can and will genuinely stand against the very best of the classic shows when it comes to commentary on the human condition and what we can be, or what we should try to be. And that is what Star Trek fans want. We want shows that respect what Trek is for. We don't care if it's different to other Trek. We've showed that for decades now. We just want it to not get treated like a franchised playground for cynical content that shits on the very spirit of why we were attracted to Trek in the first place. So yeah, I will give Section 31 a go. I'll judge it on its own merits, but based on its concept, its lead character, its trailers, and what its own actors are saying about it, it might be a decent sci-fi movie. But I very seriously doubt it will be even middlingly decent Star Trek. It is fruit from the Discovery tree. And that's exactly how I would describe that show too. Sometimes pretty decent sci-fi in its own right, but extremely rarely anything that I even recognize as Star Trek outside the superficial dressings of the uniforms and the ship designs and the phasers and the badges. Section 31, I dare you to prove me wrong about this. I really, really hope that the impression that we're getting before we're seeing it is way off, and it turns out to be legitimately really Trekky. I would love for that to happen. I don't want this to fail. I want this to be Trek. I want more good Trek. Of course I do. I fucking love Trek. I'm not sitting here being cynical for the sake of being cynical. I don't like doing that. But Trek is so very important to so many people, not just as entertainment, but as something we use to self-examine. We don't want to see it adulterated. That's all I'm saying. Thank you for watching. Thank you as always to the patrons scrolling up above there. I was about to sign off by saying beam me up, because obvious, but then I realized I'm already in the ready room, and that would be a weird command to say from the ready room. So instead, I'll just go into the door you can't see off screen there and step onto the bridge and order something. Like to go into that nebula over there. Because there's coffee in that nebula. And it's very early in the morning. I need my coffee.